Welcome to the penultimate chapter of the Black Bonspiel. When we left off, the curling match between Wully and the Devil for Wully's soul had just gotten underway. With the Wully's players now all aware of what they have against them, they set off in the match. The Black Bonspiel of Wully McCrimmon, Chapter 8. About half a block down from the United Parsonage, Annie Brown leaned against the telephone pole opposite the Shulman house. Why hadn't he showed yet? What was holding him up? Checking out something in the concordance? Counting tonight's collection take? Waiting for the second coming? Did he really appreciate what they had at stake here? When he had left her, she had considered heading for Mayor Oliver's and alerting him that the council's anti-curling on the Sabbath bylaw was being shattered. Mayors had political clout. He could certainly stop this match in its tracks. On second thought, she was not so sure. He was an ardent curler himself, had voted against the bylaw, and lost. She had only one chill option. Wait for Pringle in the freezing night and go with him to Jock McNair. Come on, Reverend, move it. Move it before they curl the last end. You've got 1 minute till I go up there myself. I may not be able to stop it, but I can certainly yank my Charlie out of it. Wonder who the McCrimmon rink's curling against. Could be Dr. Fitzgerald. No, he's likely out at Mame Harris's. Mayor Oliver's? Wouldn't that be great? Be the end of his honor's political career. Ah, there he was, finally. Quick, take cover in the Shulman Kargana.
Oh, Mr. Pringle, sorry, didn't mean to startle you. You took your time. Let's go.
Pringle shook his head. You certainly don't give up easy, Mrs. Brown.
Not on something this important, I don't. I have a lot at stake in this. Personally, my Charlie curls lead on Mr. McCrimmon rink. If I catch him in the act, it's going to be his last match on any rink.
All right, have it your way, as usual. As they got ready for the sixth end, Wully and Pipefitting conferred. Now there's a picture of the scoreboard here, which tells us that they blanked in the first end, Hell scored 2 in the second, McCrimmon scored 1 in the third, they blanked the fourth, and then Hell scored 2 more in the fifth. So the score going into the sixth end is 4-1 for Hell. Ain't looking so good, Wully. You right? Down 3, she's half over, 5 more ends to go. That's a hell of a lot to make up. Aye. We got last rock with this one. Let's not blank it to hold the hammer for the 7th. Wait till we steal extra from them the way they did to us in the 5th. We'll do our best, Pipe-Fitting. Wully, I was just remembering that Three Hills Bonspiel year before last, when the consort rink came from way behind. Remember how they done it? Aye. Just a little dab of corn syrup can do it, under the opposing skip's rock. I was witness to that. It was Clutie, who had come up to them. Don't even think of pulling a fast one on me. You're in enough trouble as it is with our comfortable lead. Thanks to you, Mr. McCrimmon. How's that? Pipe-Fitting said. Wully ain't responsible for... in a sense, he is. Clutie lifted his left foot up onto the bench. My curling boots. I owe you a nice snug fit, Wully. Never had a more comfortable pair in all the millennia I've curled. When you come down to curl third for me, I'll have you do all my men's boots, and when the time comes, we'll take the celestial briar. He started off. Wully, isn't there something we can do? How about we razz 'em and put 'em off on their stride? Rattle 'em. Clutie does not rattle easy, Pipe-Fitting. Not him. I'd pick that sissy English fella in them colors bloomers. I figure it wouldn't be hard to get him to blow up. Aye, maybe. Their second? Judas? Macbeth. He's the one. Why him? More damage if you put a third off his game than a lead or a second? You're right. As well, Macbeth is an ambitious man. He's not the skip he wants to curl third, at least. I ain't getting you, Willie. Suppose they were to take this match, then I'd end up on the devil's rink when my time comes. Yeah, and he wants me to curl third for him. I get it. Then you'd bump Macbeth. Aye. So it's him I'll go after. Okay with you, Wally? Wally? Do you know hornpipe fitting? Only chance we got. No. Oh, possibly get it right. Something's eating you, Willie. Besides the score. Aye. What? 'Tis now working. What isn't working? Confound it. Confound him. With you there, Wally, all the way. Only silver will do it. I don't get it. You want me to bug Judas instead of Macbeth? No, I'm referring to another strategy I had up my sleeve to confound the devil. It's not working yet. Well, whatever it was, Wally, I'll get to Macbeth first chance. Aye, you do that, Pipe? What's the hold up now? Clooty had come to them. Be decent of you to get your lead to curl his first rock before midnight. Just about to, Wally said. He took up his broom and went out onto the ice to hold it in place for Crosscut's target. A draw, Crosscut! Get your weight right, and right here. Now Annie was the lead as she came rushing into the rink ahead of Pringle. Stop it! Stop it, Charlie! Just as Crosscut released his rock, she came running, slipping and sliding across the ice. As she went right on her ass, she bumped into Pipe Fitting, who was busy sweeping Crosscut's rock with Malleable. No harm done. Straight and true, the rock with perfect weight came to a stop to the right of the center line, exactly where Willie had asked for it. Dead on, Crosscut! Willie yelled to him. Match over! Reverend Pringle stood with his arms up in the center of the sheet of ice. Both Willie and Clooty started toward him. You're all breaking the Lord's Day's act. Help me! Somebody help me! Annie cried as she went down for the third time. Nobody in either rink seemed to hear her. Not another rock to be thrown, in the name of the Lord and the Shelby anti-curling bylaw. On her hands and knees, Annie made it to Charlie. Charlie, help me up! He made no move to do so, looking over her to the confrontation on the end of the ice. Reverend Pringle, I believe, the devil said. You have taken my name in vain many times. Pringle started to speak, stopped, swallowed, then looked at Willie with disbelief. Willie, tell me, this isn't for real. Afraid it is, Reverend. I tried to tell ye, but you wouldn't buy it. This is just a bad dream I'm having. No, take a good look at him, and that gentleman up in the hack ready to curl his lead rock, Guy Fawkes, ready to sweep him, Judas Iscariot, and Macbeth. Tell me, who else would have those long-departed fellows on his rink? If it isn't a terrible nightmare, it's a terrible joke. Please, Wally, call it off, move it ahead a day, just an hour till midnight. I cannot. I will not. If he does, he forfeits, the devil said. Come on, Willie. I made a bargain. I must keep to the letter. I'm still not giving up on you, Willie. If I have to, I'm staying right here with hope that you'll see the light. He went over and sat on the bench beside the boards. Annie, who had done her best with Charlie, gave up and joined Pringle. You're not going to let them get away with it, are you? She said. We must wait and see. Why don't you get on that phone and call in the RCMP? Something cracked in Mr. Pringle. It had been a long day. Mrs. Brown, I would like you to do something for me. For however long this match persists, keep your mouth shut. Macbeth took out Crosscut's rock, but stayed. Now it was Malleable with his first rock. Meanwhile, the devil had taken up a strange position out in front of the rinks to the left of the center line. He would be in the way if Willie called for a draw behind Macbeth's rock. Now with Pipe Fitting and Crosscut sweeping it, the rock traveled down the ice. Get out of the way! Pringle yelled from the bench. The devil looked back over his shoulder at Pringle just as Crosscut and Pipe Fitting neared. In stepping away from them, his right foot stayed far behind. It caught and tripped Crosscut into a Guinness Book of Records pratfall. "Charlie, you're back! Your disc!" Annie cried, rising to her feet. Crosscut did not need to be told that. He lay in acute pain, curled on the ice in the fetal position, one hand pressed against his back. Pringle vaulted over the boards and brushed past the devil to get to Crosscut. He kneeled and bent over him. "She's out," Crosscut groaned. "She's out real bad." Pringle looked up at the devil. "You tripped him." All of them were gathered round Crosscut now, with the exception of Annie, who was deeply concerned, but not enough to risk going out on that slippery ice again. She'd done her best to warn him that he was asking for it if he kept curling. Maybe this one would smarten him up. Oh dear, please God, please spare him spinal surgery. "Did ye trip him?" Willie said as he advanced on the devil. Clootie shrugged, tilted his head slightly to the left. "He did," Pringle said. "I saw him. He deliberately left his right leg way back when I told him to get out of the way." Clootie remained unperturbed, whistling quietly to himself as he stood with the handle of his broom in one hand. For the first time Wally noticed that the handle's end was shaped like a sharp tail. Clootie sighed loudly. "Shall we get on with the match, gentlemen?" "Aye, as soon as we can carry our lead off the ice and assess how badly you've injured him." Malleable and Pipe got Crosscut to his feet and helped him to the board gate, where they turned him over to Annie. "Easy, Charlie, take it easy," she said as she put her arm round his waist. "We've been through this before. I can get him home and into bed, get the heating bed on his back." "You sure he can make it?" Malleable said. "Of course, just to his truck, where he must have parked it here, not at St. Therese. Come on, Charlie. Oh, I want you fellows to do something for me, pipe fitting." "Yeah?" "That visiting rink, to use Charlie's words, I want you to give them the shit-kicking of their curling career, specially their skip." So that concludes Chapter 8, the second last chapter of the Black Bonspiel. Tomorrow we'll come up to the conclusion, Chapter 9, where we find out, will William McCrimmon save his soul or not? Will the devil let them curl with only 3 members of the team, or will someone else have to make an unlikely appearance as Willie's friend? Just because it's the second last day, I thought maybe I could give you a little background information on W.O. Mitchell for those of you that aren't huge Canadian literature fans. W.O. Mitchell was actually a school teacher originally, which will please many of you, I would hope. He taught for only about 5 years, though, until his seminal work, Who Has Seen the Wind, was published. And then he went on to work for Maclean's Magazine, worked as a professor of creative writing, among some other tasks, and eventually he received the Order of Canada. Maybe his best known work, however, was his work with CBC Radio, where he created a series of radio programs under the name of Jake and the Kid. While those tasks were done in Toronto, W.O. Mitchell actually grew up on the prairies. He was from Saskatchewan, and he taught in Alberta, so he was very much influenced by that, and that's how he got the label of the Mark Twain of Canadian literature. Interestingly, The Black Bonspiel was not published as a book first. It was actually a play when it was first released in 1973, although it was said to have been written earlier than that. It wasn't made into a book format until much later, about 20 years later. So that is why this story maybe lends itself to the dramatic reading format so well. That's by the way. We'll see you again tomorrow for the end of The Black Bonspiel.